Is it just me, or is this rivalry week the tamest of all rivalry weeks when it comes to Michigan State? I think it is. Let's get into it on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers who check out the show every single day. And thank you for making us your first listen. We more than appreciate that. First, we're going to talk about just the kind of tepid nature of this year's version of the Battle of the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Then we're going to get into some what I think is just absurd MSU hijinks, essentially. And then we're just going to get into a little bit more about the game and just previewing it, all that kind of stuff. That's the plan so far for the day. So it's kind of funny because I've long said this is my least favorite week of the football season. And I don't just mean like the game itself. I mean the whole lead up to the game, everything that comes with it. You've got this fervor. Now there is somewhat like a weird fervor from the MSU side. I couldn't tell you why, but there's always a fervor. There's always a lot of angst on both sides. Maybe less, I think, on the Michigan State side, weirdly, because like I've always said, they're Mac and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They're like, I'll do a backflip. I'll go do this and I'm going to neutralize the target. And it's like, well, you've never done a backflip in your life. That's kind of how I see Michigan State fans, at least. Maybe not the team, but this is the most underhyped version of the game. I mean, yes, it has primetime billing. It's national TV. I mean, they're all national TV, but like we're talking big national, right? Like, it very well could have been on, say, it could have been on like, Big Ten Network, could have been on Peacock. Of course, they're not going to put this game on Peacock, but it could have been, right? Like it could have absolutely been on something like that. And yet it's on NBC. Obviously, the Big Ten has so many different options that it can go with here. And it gets primetime NBC East Lansing, kind of annoying because it does not feel like a game that deserves that. I think everyone did a collective sigh at the moment that was announced on Saturday evening. But there's just like normally also there's just a lot of MSU fans in my mentions. Now, granted, I'm not tweeting out a heck of a lot of stuff anymore. I don't really feel like doing the social media thing too much just because for a while it was Buckeye fans that made it just impossible. And friends like our good friend Jay Book over at Bucknuts. Only 3 minutes and 21 seconds in, Jay Book. If you want to clip this just to let everyone know that I'm thinking about you while you watch our show, by all means. Obviously, we had the fervor that happened last week at the end of the week, Friday, with an MSU troll account that clipped our show and took out a lot of context of what Jack Tuttle was saying. And, that created a little bit of a firestorm. But, otherwise, there's just not a lot of MSU like vitriol that we are accustomed to seeing in a week like this. And on top of it, like you have a Michigan team that's really not giving a lot of oxygen to it. Right. Like they'll say all the right things, but it's the same typical week in terms of like, oh, we want this one. It's the state championship. Or, we got to be ready. But, still nameless, faceless opponents. But we know that there's some games bigger than it's like you can outside of a couple other years. Like, it's kind of funny. I just said this at the player press conference last night. I said, once upon a time, they gave us Ambry Thomas Michigan State week. It was. Oh, man, that was glorious. Unfiltered Ambry Thomas. That was like he started talking and everyone's like, OK, now stop. Not media, but it was like people behind the scenes like, stop talking. No, stop talking. Stop talking. Please stop talking. Can you please stop talking? Because the amount of bulletin board material that came out of guys like his mouth. I love Ambry so much. Especially like the in-state guys. But I mean, otherwise, this feels very subdued. It doesn't feel like there's a heck of a lot going on. I know it doesn't feel like there's like the fervor and excitement that has come with like some others. And part of that, I think, obviously, is just neither team really doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now, Michigan can win out. You know, if it goes 9-2 in the Ohio State game into that game, then they're going to be right there, you know, with a win and you're in type of scenario. MSU, that ship has sailed forever ago, right? 4 straight losses. They had convinced themselves as they were beating Youngstown State that they were right there on the verge of greatness never before seen. Only time it's really ever been seen was when Nick Saban was going on his run at Alabama. And even then, you know, that's not what that pales in comparison to what was going on in East Lansing until 4 straight losses. Now, it's just interesting. I know normally we go into a week like this and it's like, you know, brace yourselves, because it's not just like the fervor, negative or positive. It's, you know, it's like, oh, people are just going to consume this week. Like they want to read everything. They want to know everything every player said and all this. I'm not getting that this week. I'm kind of getting like, you know, like, who we playing again? What time? Let's check the board back here. Oh no, that's the place. It's East Lansing. Okay. It's one of the weirder Michigan MSU weeks. Cause like, last year, yeah, neither team was good, but at least you had, you know, Sharon Moore's first versus Jonathan Smith's first. You know, 2023, you had just obviously the championship implications. It was the first game since that all the Connor Stallion stuff was revealed. You had all this talk, Alan Haller being like, we fear for the kids' safety. You know, like that, all this absurdity. 2022. You know, that one maybe wasn't built up that much, but obviously that ended with the tunnel fight and everything. 21 was about as built up as it could get. But it's just odd just to even get to this point. Like it's even less than like 2019. There was like we have to kill him. And they did. 2020, it was like, let's put Mel Tucker in a box. And it didn't happen that way. And this, you know, normally there comes like with an expectation of Michigan winning, there's at least a Michigan side that is like excited and ready to go. And like, we need to assert ourselves, you know, give Sparty this big loss and we'll walk away and feel pretty dang good about that. I'm not really sensing that this week. It just feels like they might as well be playing Purdue or Rutgers or some other team. And it's just a really interesting dynamic going on. And I just haven't seen it before. So maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me in the comments. I won't read the comments, but you can correct me if I am wrong. Maybe you are all amped up. Maybe you're all raring to go. I'm just not sensing it this week. It's really bizarre. All right, let's move on to some bizarro world stuff with the MSU of it all. Let's do that here in just a moment. But before we do, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And listen, they've got this amazing Japanese craftsmanship that you can just feel in every single detail, from the metallic accents to the Napo leather upholstery that's available to you. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We're going to continue on momentarily. Before we do, Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer as well as smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat, and the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Totally channeling Peter McKinnon here with the coffee drinking middle of the day. Probably not up to his standards. It's just Black Rifle Coffee Company out of a Keurig. So that's it. It's there's no AeroPress here. I do have a broken hand, much like he did. I was watching some videos from about 4 years ago or earlier today, and he's like, I broke all my fingers. Okay, well, I broke one, so at least I broke a knuckle and sprained the rest of them, but still, really channeling him here. Got the Peter McKinnon bag instead of the think tank. We're going all in with the with that whole thing. Anyhow, interesting stuff coming out of Nick Marsh. Interesting that both teams have a Marsh as their star receiver. As he said, and I'm paraphrasing here. I don't want to look it up and do the whole thing. Like, you know, read the quote. I'm sure a lot of you have heard it already, but this is more about the reaction than it is the quote itself. Being like, oh yeah, we've just got to be on guard against, you know, they're going to try to Michigan, like they're going to try to bait us into stuff, and they're going to be doing all these things. And this is the bizarro world that we live in when it comes to this rivalry for whatever reason. I don't really understand how or why it's always this way, right? And I bring this up in part because it was already said before Nick Marsh went up and said it. That was exactly said by I think Giovanni Elhadi on Monday. Like, yo, they're gonna bait us into some stuff. We can't take the bait. You're right, like that, and you know that's now what's baiting. And that's kind of what my question is here. But and I know Nick Marsh, he's just second year player. He's a sophomore. He's only participated in one of these rivalry games. He did it last year. The only thing that really happened in that game of the negative variety was the end of game. And supposedly, Colston Loveland said something, and that was means for charging across the line and starting a fight. And then there's all kinds of made up stuff. I saw some of this online where it's like, let's not forget that Kalel Mulling stomped on a trainer and did all this stuff. And it's like, then how come we never saw a picture? We never saw a hospital report. There was never like a call for like penance from him outside of just the fan base. Like there was nothing, right? It's just made up out of thin air type of stuff, which is what this rivalry has tended to have coming from that side of it. And I bring all this up just kind of hearkening back to 2022. I lived a mile from the stadium. I brought this up a little bit yesterday, but I lived a mile from the stadium. Hence, I recorded a post-game show because, all this stuff happened. I want to relive for a second what I heard, how I found out about the tunnel of it all. I was at the base of the tunnel when everything was happening. I couldn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I was facing not towards it, but I was talking to someone. I don't remember who now. We were talking about something else. And then I go up the tunnel, and one of the event staffers at Michigan was crying. And she was like, they tried to kill him. And I was like, what? I don't know what you're saying. It's like, they tried to kill him. It's like, what? I don't understand. It's like, there were a bunch of MSU guys, and they were ganging up on one Michigan guy, and one took off his helmet and was trying to beat him with it. And then there was another fight over here, and there was like 8 against 1 and whatever. And so I showed up to the post-game press conference as the only person. Nothing had hit the internet yet. So I show up to the post-game press conference. Everyone else is like, like typical post-game, like, hey, how you doing? Hey, that was a game, type of thing. And I'm like, guys, everything's about to change. Everything you're talking about right now, and you're sitting there being like, oh, Davis Warren, the Donovan Edwards threw, like everything you were talking about right now. Like none of this is going to get talked about in about 3 minutes. And sure enough, that's exactly, they end up having the joint press conference with Jim Harbaugh and Ward Manuels. They addressed it. And, the whole thing, because in the interim, too, like some of the videos started to surface. But I went back and did a show because my whole thing at that point was like, it's all laid bare. Finally, the facade comes down. Finally, we can stop acting like it's these poor MSU guys. They're just trying to go to school, or church, or go and, volunteer at Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and do all the, they were trying to give their lunch money to charity. And the poor, mean, the big, mean Michigan guys came and just completely screwed everything up for their poor team. I was like, finally, that is all gone. That narrative is done. That narrative is dead. And there's no way that they're going to be able to deny it, whether it's the fans, the media, whatever. Only to find out that I, in the words of, is it Joe Bluth that says this? I misunderestimated them. And only for it to be turned around. Some kind of fan fiction narrative comes out that becomes truth. And it just becomes a whole thing. Yet, it's kind of funny because it's like when Michigan wins, then it seems like there's these hijinks. When MSU wins, it seems like, especially like when they've won they won in East Lansing in 2021. That's the only time I've been to East Lansing and saw Michigan lose a game. There was no incident, right? Like they did their handshakes and they went and did the press conference and everyone went home. That was it. There was no hijinks in that game whatsoever, aside from refereeing. So when Nick Marsh comes out and says these things, it's just perpetuating this mythical narrative that exists in East Lansing that just couldn't be further from the truth. I don't understand where this comes from. Like it's because like Michigan does, like they'll say that the tunnel was a problem. Like what happened in the tunnel against Penn State in 2022? It was just, like people jumping up and down, some Penn State guys throwing some, those Smuckers frozen peanut butter sandwiches or whatever. Like not a big deal, right? What happened in 2021 against Ohio State? Again, tunnel, not a big deal. It's just, John and a bunch of guys going, and then you have that tunnel incident, the Michigan State one. Completely different scenario. It's apples and some fruit no one's ever heard of, is the difference there. So that would probably be their first thing because they try to point to the tunnel and say, oh, it's the Michigan and it's the tunnel. But like Michigan doesn't have like this type of problem with anyone else except for now Ohio State, who, Jack Sawyer likes to, they took a rod and poked it into the turf, right? They're not damaging the turf. And suddenly that's grounds for fisticuffs, grounds for let's mace everybody. I mean, it's only those teams, and it's really only one. Interesting that. Anyway. All right. So some interesting things as far as Trey Williams in particular had some interesting comments. I want to get to that. Let's do that here in just a moment. But before we do, college football is back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping up at checkout, except for at Spartan Stadium, where you can, I think they'll basically pay you to go. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. The app makes it super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying. And I love zone deals too. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and significantly less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tip. See, I can't do it. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, I think one of the most interesting comments came from Trey Williams. Not specifically about Michigan State. Now, I will demur briefly here. when it came to Michigan State, what I thought was very cool hearing from Trey Williams, he's like, oh, we've been going back and playing since 1898. And, he even when called that out, it was like, hey, the year they started playing, and like, you just got here from Clemson. And he's like, yeah, I was trying to impress you guys. He's like, I immersed myself in everything Michigan football because it's that important to do so. But like, I asked about screens in particular. Because MSU has got that in their repertoire, and obviously Michigan defended it very well against Washington. First time all year, really. Kind of reminds me of last year, right? Like you saw the kind of the delayed tight end screens last year. Kind of started with Texas, the delayed handoffs, those two things. And Michigan fixed the glitch by the end of the year. And although I'm still really baffled still that Ohio State didn't try to really screen Michigan at all. One time that they did with Travion Henderson, it worked, and then they just forgot it existed. But, I shouldn't say that they forgot. There were a couple other screens that didn't work out that way. And obviously, it wasn't quite a screen, but it was close, the Amir Hall interception. But I digress. So he said, Trey Williams says like, oh, we're going to see screens every game from here on in. Offenses would be stupid if they don't do that. But they feel like they're prepared for it at this point. And like that. This is going to be a really interesting dynamic because Michigan has seen we went into the year and I was kind of the idea erroneously. This is a mea culpa in this light that they weren't going to be facing a lot of top passing offenses, right? Because it's like the Big Ten. I understand they played USC. I'm like, OK, there's going to be that. And I understood, Dylan Raiola being who he is. But it was just kind of like, I just don't think that, the big issue being that the secondary kind of being the biggest question for the defense. It was like, okay, well, they're not going to face many other passing offenses, right? Like other than USC and, maybe Oklahoma. And it turns out, it's been looking at right now, passing offenses. They faced and lost to number 2 USC. They faced and beat number 17 Nebraska. Oklahoma obviously took a little bit of a dump there down the rankings after all the injuries there. They beat number 33 Washington, held them to 7 total points. It's kind of looking, Oklahoma's now down at 52, but still a very good passing offense. MSU isn't necessarily like way up there. They're 88th, but they can be dangerous when it comes to the passing, right? Like almost 300 yards against Indiana, 78.9% for Aiden Childs last week. He has it in him. Granted, they only scored 13 points, but, and before that, 270 yards against Youngstown State. But this is a group that can be dangerous in the passing game. It's not consistently dangerous, but still, like screens are a way that you can kind of get around that at times. They're not particularly dangerous in the run game outside of the first 4 games. Really 3 games. After that, it just became nothing. Obviously, they found themselves pretty far down. So for Michigan, it's going to be about withstanding some of that screen action, still being good against it as they were last week. Defending, they're going to get some plays. I just want to prepare you. They're going to make plays. This isn't going to be 2018. This isn't going to be 93 yards. 2018 just feels like 3 different games in one. Maybe it's because of the weather. Obviously, like it ended up being tight when they scored coming out of the second half. But it's funny to think of that was a 93-yard game because it's when I think back to that game, it was multiple. It feels like it was like a bunch of games rolled up into one. But I think that's where Michigan's really just going to have to guard against overconfidence. That comes from coaches as well as the players. Understanding that, I don't think that they're going to get much of a fight in the trenches, but maybe they will. I think last year was like somewhat surprising, right? I don't think that Michigan dominated the trenches against MSU last year. And we said the same thing, I think, going into that game. So sometimes you have to fight battles you didn't expect to fight. So you do have that essentially going against you to some degree. It's a road game. I don't know how raucous it's going to be. Kind of feels like it could be one of those games where there's a lot more Michigan fans than, say, I was going to say 2 years ago. That's not true. It's just, it feels like there's, I have a hard time really kind of putting my finger on how this is going to go. But I mean, I do think Michigan will win the game, because you still like ultimately, as much as they say, throw the record books out the window. I mean, generally, that's just not real. Sometimes in this rivalry, it is. Sometimes. More so, I feel like in the 90s, it was. But like ultimately, when you think through like the D'Antonio era, it was like, yeah, sometimes you had like evenly matched teams on paper. And then at the end of the year, you're looking at it and you're like, MSU was a 10-11 win team. Michigan struggled for bowl eligibility, right? So I don't think that, a lot of times they were playing it earlier in the year than it seems like now they always play like the last Saturday in October. But yeah, I just don't think that it's one of those things where it's like that makes much sense to say like throw the record books out the window. Now Michigan's going to have to play good. In words of Jim Harbaugh, as you used to always say, like, oh, we're going to have to play good. I mean, that's true. Like they're not going to be able to limp their way into a win. And just kind of given Sharon Moore's track record, this isn't a knock. It's just they've won a lot of games so far under Sharon Moore, but it's still like it has not been like this comfortable blowout scenario in games like this. Now you hope that it could be. Joel Klatt talked about how Michigan seemed to resemble 2022 Michigan this last week. Staying more in base defense, defense making you plod your way down the field. They stop you. Offense is able to grind it out. They throw when they want to, type of thing. It'll be interesting to see if the coaches learn that same lesson as well. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Tomorrow will be Counter Stallions. Friday will be Jack Tuttle. That is the plan. So thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.